You know, for Illinois Congressman Krishnamoorthi, the attack on the Capitol was especially personal.
Yeah, the congressman tweeted last night that it was also an attack on the dream that drew my family and so many others for what Lincoln called the last best hope of Earth.
Yeah, the congressman's been kind enough to join us. He's back home safe and sound this morning. And Congressman, as I say good morning to you, I would argue that one of the downsides of the 24-hour news cycle is we tend to forget. If you would, please, can you share some of your personal experiences from this past week? Was there a particularly harrowing moment for you?
Well, it started with an evacuation of my office in the Cannon House office building. The Capitol Police evacuated us to the Longworth building, and then my staff said, we got to get out of here because the protesters are nearby. I guess the most harrowing moment is when I received a phone call in the middle of the afternoon, basically telling me that you must at all costs avoid any kind of physical encounter with these insurrectionists, these rioters, because the consequences could be very, very bad.
Well, you voted to impeach last night, and you have no doubt that that mob was incited by the president. However, I want to ask you, what are your concerns that if this does go to the Senate and they start to have a trial in the Senate over these articles of impeachment, that it is really going to disturb what Joe Biden is trying to accomplish in the first 100 days in office?
I think that we have to kind of walk and chew gum at the same time. We have to definitely take up the business of the country in battling the pandemic, not only the healthcare crisis, but the economic crisis, and of course, confirming Joe Biden's nominees to various cabinet departments. But on the other hand, we have to address the egregious conduct of the president last week. As the Chicago Tribune said this morning, it's very important that we basically send a message to any future elected leader at any level that the conduct that the president exhibited is completely unacceptable. As Liz Cheney, my friend and colleague, who's the #3 Republican in the House, said, what the president did was the quote unquote greatest betrayal of a president, of his office and his oath to the Constitution. And so this is extremely serious.
Congressman, there seems to be a Second Amendment battle currently going on, in Washington yesterday. About a dozen Republicans sidestepped the metal detectors. There's talk this morning of implementing fines, $5,000 for the first violation, $10,000. Would you be in favor of that?
Yes. Firearms are not allowed on the floor of the House. I believe that the House rules allow for firearms to be carried on a member's person, so to speak, with an appropriate concealed carry permit and in their own office. But we can't have weapons on the floor of the House or in the gallery. We saw what happened last week, and we can never, ever allow that to happen again.
Well, speaking of that happening, have you heard any more details about how this unfolded? It seems unbelievable that you would be put in this situation. It seems that with all of the intelligence that police and law enforcement had, how this happened. And are you angry about that?
I am angry. I'm very concerned, quite frankly, about our security situation going into the inauguration. Those brave guardsmen and women who came from all over the country, including Illinois, to the U.S. Capitol to protect the national event that's happening next Wednesday is very important. However, at the same time, we have to understand what led to the security failures of last Wednesday. And how can it be that, for instance, the president basically was reluctant or did not want National Guards people to come and back up the Capitol Police at the time that they were being overrun? Why was the leadership of the Capitol Police, allowing for certain members to take selfies with these protesters when they breached the Capitol complex and even give directions to them once they arrived? These types of questions and others have to be answered, but the immediate issue is securing the inauguration. That's extremely important.
There was a common refrain yesterday, Congressman, among many of your colleagues across the aisle, that yes, President Trump did have a hand by any degree you'd like to measure in what we saw earlier this week, or last week rather, but that he's already leaving office. He's basically packing up the White House. Let him go and don't go ahead and vote for impeachment. To that argument, you say what?
Well, the Chicago Tribune actually wrote about this morning, and one of the things that they pointed out is it's important that we impeach because, it serves as a check on his future behavior in the remaining 7 days of this presidency leading up to the inauguration. I'm convinced, for instance, that he put out that message that you showed just a few minutes ago in response to the impeachment because he knows that his behavior is being scrutinized very carefully in the run-up to the trial. The second issue is, we must hold him accountable for the activities of last Wednesday. Leader McCarthy said that he bore responsibility for this attack. That's what Leader McCarthy said on the floor. And as a consequence, he must face swift punishment for that if we are to deter this type of behavior in the future.
Well, Congressman, we are out of time, but thank you so much. We're glad you're home safe and sound, and we appreciate you joining us this morning.
Thank you so much. Thank you.